everyone, this is Heather. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I have a card tutorial for you to make this fun surprise birthday card with a little wobble bunny jumping out of a top hat. Isn't that cute? So I am really excited to be using some brand new products from the 2018 Stampin' Up catalog, and today I am using the stamp set called Best Bunny. And as always, I apologize for the reflection of my overhead lighting. The stamp set has two sizes of bunnies. There's this cute little bunny, and then there's a larger bunny that comes in pieces. So there's his body and his head, his tail, his little hands. There's different faces that you can put on him, different accessories that he can hold, like the carrot and the package. There's a little hat, some background things like stars and confetti, and some really great sentiments. And this is a clear stamp set, and it is really adorable. I love rabbits, so I absolutely had to have this set. It's so, so cute. And now this coordinates with the Bunny Builder Punch, which has the head, the body, the feet, and the tail that all coordinate with the stamp set. So instead of using a die cut set, you use the punch. And if you're not familiar with these punches, they're really nice because they have a lever on the bottom. So when you close it, see if I can show this, when you close it, you slide the lever and it stays locked so that it's thinner for storage. So those are really nice. And when you're ready to use it, you just flip that lever up and the punch is ready to use. So you're going to need a cardstock base, and I just took some 8.5 by 11 white cardstock, cut it in half and scored and folded it for my card base. And I've got a black piece of cardstock that's cut to 5 1/4 by 4, a piece of coral cardstock that is cut to 5 by 3 3/4. And then I've got some pattern paper that is also available in the new 2018 Stampin' Up catalog, and this is from the Tropical Escape, and it's got these pretty stripes on the back, but it's got a nice teeny little like white dot, or sorry, black on white little dots, and I thought this worked really well with the color scheme that I'm using. And then I also have a couple of pieces of watercolor paper. So I've got a small one that's around 2 inches and a larger one that's around 3 inches of watercolor paper. So I'm going to take my larger piece of watercolor paper and punch out all the pieces of the bunny and pick them up. So I've got all my little bunny pieces, and then I also went ahead and punched out an extra tail, and we're going to use that for part of the wobble, so we will need that. And then on the smaller piece, we're going to stamp the hat. So I am using a stamp positioner today, and one of the new tools from the Stampin' Up catalog is the Stamparatus. I don't have it, but you can use, there's a lot of different companies that have stamp tools on the market, so you can use whatever stamping tool you've got. You don't have to have one, but it does make it a little bit easier. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the top hat out. And this you could do with just a regular block, but in a minute with the bunny punch, we definitely will have an easier time of stamping if we use a positioning tool. So I'm using watercolors today. So I'm using StazOn ink. I'm just using StazOn black ink. I'm just gonna stamp that top hat onto that smaller piece of watercolor paper. And for now, I'm just going to set it off to the side. Now I'm going to take the piece that I punched out that has the openings in it. I'm going to place that in my stamp positioner. I'm going to take the body, the head, and the hands of the bunny, and I'm going to put those stamps right over top of those openings. And this is going to help us to line up the outline of the stamps with our pieces. And then I'm going to close the lid and pick up the stamps. And then I'm going to take my punch pieces and replace them. So just like a little puzzle piece, kind of nest those down in there. And we're not doing the tail, we're just doing the head, body, and hands. And now I'm going to ink up the stamps with some Stays On ink because I want to be using I'm going to be using watercolor pencils. So I'm just using black Stays On ink. And now I'm going to close the lid and press down. And if it needs to be inked up again, I can just add a little bit more ink and stamp it one more time just to make sure I've got a good crisp image. Sorry, that's a little off camera there. Stamp that out one more time. And now the pieces are perfectly lined up with the stamps. So now I have removed the other pieces except for the face. I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did before with one of the faces, and I loved the little winking face of the bunny, so I'm going to line that up where I would like the face to be. Pick that stamp up and add some ink and stamp out his little face. And now I want to add a little bit of color to our bunny and the top hat. So I have grabbed a black, gray, brown, and coral watercolor pencils, and these are the watercolor pencils from Stampin' Up. And I'm going to use the black on the top hat. And in order to get some kind of shading, I like to add a little bit of a heavier line where I would like it to be darker. So kind of around the edges and near the brim. And watercolor pencils, just kind of be loose with it and just do a little bit of sketching. And then I'm going to take a water brush and I'm just going to get the water going on a piece of paper towel. And then just kind of pull that color out so it'll be a little bit darker of where I used a bit of a heavier hand for the shading. So I'm going to clean off my brush and use my coral marker to add a little bit to that band. And same thing, just use the water brush to pull some of that color out. So there's my top hat. Clean off my brush, and I wanted a brown bunny. So I'm just going to go around the bunny and add a little bit of the brown colored pencil. Again, just kind of loose and scribbly. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just kind of hold it down with one of your fingers. And I left his belly, just did his belly white. And a little bit in there. And then his teeny little hands. I'm going to add just a little bit of brown to those. And back to my water brush. And I'm sorry if my fingers are in the way. And just kind of spread some of that color around. That's the nice thing about watercolors, is it's very loose and free. It's okay if you go outside the lines. It's got that sort of artsy look to it. So there's some brown on my bunny. A little bit more water going on my brush, and let's get his body colored in. And if at any time you feel like you don't have enough of the pencil color, you can always, even when it's wet, don't bear down too hard because you don't want to tear your paper, but you can still go back in and add a little bit more color even when it's still kind of damp, and add just a little bit more. Okay, so I've added some brown all over my bunny on his face, body, and hands, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of gray to the tail, and part of it's going to be hidden, so I don't have to really color it in, but it just adds just a little bit more texture to his white tail there. So I've just made some little like half moon shapes. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it adds just a little bit more gray. And then I'm gonna grab the coral pencil and do the inside of his ears and his little nose and mouth and give him some cheeks. And go over this with the water brush as well. Okay, so I've got all the pieces and parts of my bunny all colored up. And now I want to put him together. So I'm going to use some foam tape and I'm going to cut a very, very thin sliver of foam tape. And I'm going to lay that across the top of his body at the neckline. Take off that backing paper and add his little head on the top there. So that just gives him a little bit of dimension. Then I'm going to do the same thing, cutting another sliver, and then sort of cut those down into smaller pieces for the back of his little paws. So I've added a little bit of foam tape on the back of the paws and put those on the front. And then on the back I've added a small glue dot. And I'm gonna put his tail on the back. So now here's our little completed bunny. Isn't he cute? And so now I'm going to take my top hat and just cut it out of the watercolor paper with my scissors, just leaving a little bit of a white border. So now I'm gonna grab my pattern paper and the surprise word. I'm gonna stamp that in the lower left-hand corner. And I'm using Memento Black, but you could use the same StazOn. I stamp that in the corner. And then I have put foam tape on the back of the top hat. I'm going to place that down sort of in the lower right-hand corner. And I'm going to grab the little jump lines and stamp those over top of the top hat. So it looks like he's jumping out of the hat. And now I'm going to show you how to make your own little wobble. So I'm taking some just craft wire. This is 26 gauge craft wire. I'm going to grab one of my colored pencils and I'm going to take the wire and wrap it around just a few times. Like that. And then just take my scissors and trim it off. Or if you've got wire snips, you could use that too, but this is so thin that you can cut that with your scissors. Then I pull this off. So I have this little spiral here. And we're gonna go to our bunny. And so I've kind of left these little tails at the end of my spiral. I'm just gonna take a little small piece of just regular Scotch tape. And I just need a little bit of it. So I'm just gonna tear a little piece. And one of these little wire tails is going to get taped to the back of the bunny, like that. And then this other tail is going to get taped to that extra little tail that we punched out before. So this is kind of fidgety on the camera, but I'm going to take just another little piece of tape and tape that other little tail. And you could just use a circle. It doesn't have to be the bunny's tail because it's not going to show. If you have anything extra hanging off the back, you can trim that off. It does not have to be pretty because it's really not going to show at all. Just want to make sure that the wires are taped down, and that will give you that nice little spring. So I'm going to go ahead and put my card together. So I'm going to tape down the black cardstock to the white. So I'm just using regular adhesive, and I'm going to center that on the front of my card. Do the same thing with the coral. So I've got all my layers of cardstock, and now I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of the pattern paper and center that on my card. So our card looks like that. And then on the back of our little spring here, I'm going to add a really strong glue dot. So I've just got a glue dot dispenser, and I'm just going to use my fingers, just be a little bit easier to place that glue dot on the back there, and you can kind of get your spring coiled up in the right way. And then I'm going to add that to my card where I would like my bunny to be, and press down pretty hard so that it's adhered to the card front. And now I have my own little wobble. Isn't that cute? I think that is so much fun. So really easy to do using just craft wire that you can find at the craft store. And again, I'm using the new Best Bunny and Bunny Builder Punch from the new Stampin' Up 2018 catalog. And I really appreciate you joining me today. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and check out my channel. I have lots of other card tutorials and product reviews, and I hope you have a very happy day. This is Heather. Bye.